Evening and welcome to the Wednesday, March 20th work session of the Town of Penfield. I call this meeting to order. Can we have the roll call, please?
Barry.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Leenhouts.
Here.
Ockenden is absent. Teglash.
Here.
All here.
Great. Next, we have the approval of the minutes. We're going to approve January 17th and February 21st.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I will second that motion.
All in favor? Roll call vote, please.
Barry.
Aye.
Lee.
Here.
Leenhouts.
Here.
Teglash.
Aye.
All right. Next agenda item is we have a few guests, actually, a couple guests. We'll start out with the Bonadio and Company, and I'll hand it right over.
Thank you so much for having me. So my name is Erica Proctor. I'm a principal at Bonadio. I'm the one that was overseeing your audit this year. So I have a few documents to go over today. One is the PowerPoint presentation. Another one is a required communications letter. So first, I'd like to start off by thanking Barbara and her team. We make a lot of requests as part of the audit process, and they are always great about getting us everything we need and getting it to us accurately, so we greatly appreciate that. The first document I want to go over with you is similar to the letter that you've seen from us in the past. It's called the Required Communications Letter, and it just goes over a few key items that we need to communicate to you as part of the audit process. The first thing that we need to communicate with you is whether there were new accounting standards and accounting practices during the year. In this case, we implemented GASB 96 this year, which is accounting for subscription-based information technology arrangements. This is new. It basically takes your subscription-based agreements and it puts them as an asset and a liability on the books. So it doesn't change your day-to-day operations. It's just a presentation for financial statement purposes. The result of that ended up with a prior period adjustment in accordance with the standard of about $78,449, and it had a liability of the same amount. At the end of the year, because of amortization, you ended up with an asset of about $38,000 and a similar liability. We noted no transactions entered into by the town during the year for which there was a lack of authoritative guidance or consensus, and all significant transactions have been recognized in the financial statements in the proper period. Additionally, during the audit, we look at management's estimates, so any estimates that we consider to be significant. So at the town, that includes your total other post-employment benefits liability, your net pension asset or liability for New York State retirement, and depreciation expense. So as part of the audit, we look at the inputs related to that to make sure that they're reasonable, because if you change any inputs related to those estimates, it could significantly impact the financial statements. So we want to make sure that the estimates that you're using are reasonable. Additionally, we look at the financial statement disclosures, and we look to see if there's anything sensitive related to that. We've identified the total other post-employment benefits liability and New York State retirement pension liability disclosures as significant. Mainly that's because you have no control over those liabilities. Because you have employees who are in those plans, those liabilities are actuarially determined. So there's nothing you can do to adjust those amounts, but they are very significant, so we call your attention to that. The next thing we talk about is any difficulties encountered in performing the audit. This is important because you are the ones who hire us, so if we had any issues, we would want to make sure that we disclose those to you, but we did not encounter any significant difficulties as part of our audit process. The next item down relates to corrected and uncorrected misstatements. You'll see at the back of the required communications letter, we had a few adjustments this year. Management has made all of those adjustments as part of the audit process. We did not have any disagreements with management over the course of the audit. And the last thing that we would want to disclose to you is sometimes over the course of business, management will reach out to other accountants to get their opinion on certain matters. We would want to know about that, what we like to call opinion shopping, only because the other accountant might not have the necessary information to give you a correct answer. So if we were aware of such communication happening, we would let you know, but in this instance, we are not aware of any such consultations.
Can you direct me to Exhibit A, please?
Yes, so there's a couple page letter that should have been the top document. Yep. So on the back of that letter, which is not attached, there are adjustments. So we will get that over to you because there were a few audit adjustments.
I reviewed those, and I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss it in the drop materials or the printed items here, so.
Yep, absolutely.
Have those in tandem, please, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions on that? Okay. So you have a copy of the financial statements in front of you. It's my understanding that it was given to you earlier in the week as well, so you had time to look that over. So really, I'm just going to go over a few key highlights as part of the presentation. If you have any questions or there's anything you want me to elaborate on, let me know. So the first item that I want to discuss is the auditor's responsibility for the audit. So our responsibility is really to form an opinion on whether the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. We look at the internal controls at the town to make sure that they would catch any adjustments that might need to be made, and then we communicate any significant matters to you as part of that audit process. Just as a reminder, the audit does not relieve management or the board of your responsibility for oversight and governance. So although we communicate that information to you, ultimately it is your responsibility still for the financial statements. As a result of our audit, we had an unmodified opinion. That's a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance we can provide, which is great. That's what you've received in the past as well. A few financial highlights for you. The government-wide statement of net position consisted of the net investment in capital assets, restricted net position, and unrestricted. So one big change here, overall, your net position increased about $7 million. A lot of that was due to your revenues in excess of your expenses this year at the government-wide, so the full accrual level. And a lot of that was an increase in your net investment in capital assets. You had about $2 million in purchases of machinery and equipment, which would fall to that line. The remaining increase was majority in that unrestricted net position line. In the middle of this slide, you'll see the impacts of a few items that we had talked about before: pension, OPEB, and debt. Like I said, with pension and OPEB, you don't really have control of these numbers. So they do impact your financial statements. So the impact is listed here, about $1.3 million impact for pension, and OPEB, that's other post-employment benefits, of about $13.8 million. And then you have your outstanding debt, which did decrease from the prior year, that would also impact your government-wide net position. So in total, you have about a $21 million impact on net position there. Percentage of revenues, if you look at the bottom of the slide, general revenues, which is mainly your mortgage tax, your non-property tax, and your real property taxes, accounted for about 73% of your total revenue. That's very similar to last year. It was 72% of your total revenue. And your program-specific revenues, which would be like your charges for services, your operating and your capital grants, was about 27% versus the 28% in the prior year. So very comparable activity year over year at the government-wide level. Looking at the next slide, it has your total governmental funds. This is more of what you're looking at on a monthly basis. This is your general fund. Majority of it is your general fund. So we've got your non-spendable, your restricted, assigned, and unassigned. Again, these were pretty comparable to the prior year. You did have a few increases this year, and your restricted fund balance increased about $1.4 million. A lot of that was the ARPA funds that you had restricted for future use. And then your assigned fund balance, which is now $20 million, had increased about $4 million from the prior year. And just as a reminder, those are amounts that you've assigned as the board, the supervisor, or you've encumbered at year end for future use. And the remaining amount falls to unassigned. So anything that is not non-spendable, which your non-spendable is your prepaid New York State retirement, restricted or unassigned, would fall to your unassigned. Some highlights from your general fund. So general fund balance was about $1 million this year in unassigned. Total fund balance of about $24 million, which increased from the prior year by about 8.7%. And a lot of that was due to your revenues increasing and your expenditures increasing from the prior year as well. So it was the net impact of the current year activity mainly that drove that increase in fund balance in the current year. So on the next slide, you'll see a summary of the last few years' balance sheet accounts for your governmental funds. Just a couple items to point out for you. Your cash equivalents, and investments are up this year about $4 million. That's mainly due to that change in fund balance. So it fell to the cash and investment line items. And then you'll see that your unearned revenue actually dropped a little bit, but it's still a pretty big number. It's about $3.8 million. The majority of that is your ARPA money. So because you haven't spent all of that yet, it's sitting in unearned revenue. As you spend that money, you'll be able to recognize the revenue. So that account will continue to decrease over the next few years as you spend that money. In the next slide, you will see the changes in fund balance that we've been kind of talking about already. A couple items to note here. Your tax items were pretty consistent year over year. It dropped a little bit, about 2.8%. That's mainly due to the drop in sales tax, which we know is unpredictable. It depends on the economy year over year. Your other revenues were up about $1.6 million, though, and that was mainly due to the interest earned on investments this year. So you had a lot of investment earnings this year. As interest rates have increased, you've earned more. So you ended up with a lot more earnings from your NICLAS investments this year. And then lastly, on the expenditures, so your current expenditures are up about $2 million from last year. About 700 of that, 700,000 of that is your ARPA for the LED street lighting that you were doing. 650,000-ish is due to that new DPW project that's going to be going on, the planning for that. And then about $496,000 of equipment that you had purchased in the current year that had been delivered. The last slide I have for you tonight is some future pronouncements. So there's a new GASB that's coming up actually for 2024, so the year that we're in right now. It's related to compensated absences. So compensated absences is sick vacation time for our employees. Previously, compensated absences have been recorded as a liability for any amounts that you can pay out to the employee in cash upon termination. So it's only been if you will pay out to the employees. This new standard, if the criteria that are listed there are met, is going to mean that you accrue all of their sick or vacation time, regardless of whether you're paying it out in a paycheck or you're cutting them a check at termination. So it's going to end up increasing your liability significantly next year because now you're going to have a liability for that full amount instead of just the amount that you would have potentially paid out in cash upon termination from the employment. Are there any questions there?
And so that would change year over year?
Yes,
Okay.
it changes every year.
Okay.
Yep.
Wouldn't that change throughout the year?
Yeah,
So
so
you can take like a snapshot of a particular time?
you can. I think from a logistics standpoint and an accounting standpoint, it's really just going to be a year-end adjustment for financial statement purposes. So during the course of the year, you'll still account for the sick and vacation as you normally would, and then at year-end, there will be an adjustment booked.
So the
related
biggest
to
fun
that.
would be sick, because sick time is what
Yeah.
it's the biggest accrual, because that goes towards your retirement, so that's the one people tend to build up. So.
Okay.
So it'll swing year over year depending on how many hours people have at year end and their pay rates. So it'll be their hours times their rate will give you that liability.
Just a couple things. One, I noticed somewhere that the actuary changes had an impact, like, is that a yearly thing where
Yes.
they
Yep. So
estimate
that,
on?
yeah, that would be New York State retirement and your total other post-employment benefits. So every year KPMG does a valuation of the New York State retirement system, and you are allocated a portion of that liability or asset depending on how the system is doing. So they send you a report that says, based on all of these assumptions, how many employees you have in the system, what your covered payroll is, here's your piece of it. So they do that on an annual basis. And then for OPEB, it's a similar situation. You, at the town, hire an actuary. The actuary looks at your information. So you send the actuary a list of all your employees, your retirees, every other year. They use that information, plus they'll look at mortality rates, the makeup of the population, and they will determine what your liability is potentially going to be. But they would do a valuation every year, but they do a full valuation every other year. So in the off years, they'll just use the information they already had, update it for any new assumptions, and give you new numbers.
Gotcha. I translated it that people are living longer, basically.
Yeah.
And one thing to mention, I don't know if it's going to be mentioned, but I think it's been unusual, or maybe it's been a while, to have interest rates up, but I think we earned $1,300,400 in interest, which is
Yeah.
unusual.
Yeah.
But that has to be spent. We can't keep the money. I guess I'm learning all this stuff, but, that was one thing that jumped out at me, so.
Yeah.
What do you mean that has to be spent?
I think, I don't know. Maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
There's not restrictions on the interest earned on our investments.
Right.
You might be thinking of if there's interest earned on a borrowing and such, then there's different rules with arbitrage and how fast you have to spend down on a borrowing and interest rates, and that's a little more controlled. This interest, actually, because we were quite fortunate in our investments, that would be why we increased the assigned amount a little bit more for construction, capital improvements. So it will get spent, but it will
Yeah, I
get spent.
didn't necessarily mean it the way it sounds.
Doesn't have
I
to
guess,
spend
but,
it right now. So,
Okay.
but yes, it was a great year for interest earnings. So.
Any other questions? Comments?
Do you recall if Exhibit A was lengthy, or what the significant misstatements were or corrections by management?
I don't think it was lengthy. So we had entries related to the,
Sewer relief fund.
yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry?
The sewer relief fund, it was just reclassifying it from being in a fiduciary fund over to an operating fund.
Is that the joint with Webster?
That we collect, and then we're paying towards the sewer, so that
Yeah.
was that was the big adjusting entry.
So now that there's an official agreement related to that specifies that the town is the responsible party, instead of accounting for it in custodial, it's now within your governmental
Okay.
funds.
Just an idea.
Yep,
Okay.
we had that. The entries for the Sabita were in there as far as audit adjustments too. And then I know Barbara had noted a couple things after we received the trial balance, so her entries were on there as well. So it lists out the client entries after we received the original trial balances and the audit adjustments.
Because we receive like our fourth quarter tax.
Sure.
After we
After
close.
closing, yep.
Right,
I get
so
it,
that's
I
all
get it, I get it.
estimated, so.
I get it.
Yep.
Yeah, no, this is very helpful, particularly as we gear up for budget season here, and then I'm assuming we can build this for financial projections for 2024, and particularly for the capital projects, so great. Is there anything you're looking for us from tonight?
So if you do have additional questions or comments on the draft, if you could get those back to me, perhaps by April 3rd, because then I can go ahead and, all these documents are filed with New York State and with Moody's and through Emma, so I have all these little entities I have to get everything to. So if you could get comments, and then I'll, relay them to Erica to get our final documents back. That would be
Sure.
much
Yeah.
appreciated.
I'm assuming Exhibit A won't take very long to resend, right?
No, absolutely not. No.
Sure. Sounds great, thank you.
Yeah, very nice.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks,
Good
Erica.
job, too.
Thanks.
All right, thanks.
It's not exactly light reading, but.
No, I mean, there was nothing to report. There was nothing to report. That's a lot for you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. All right, next on the agenda is an exciting DPW building, and we'll have MRB join us and give their cost estimate presentation. How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you all. I'll give a brief little intro. For those of you that don't know, this is Maggie Nearing. She's with MRB Group. She's been helping us for the past a little over 7 years now on this project. The part of the original, contract with MRB for the design of the building did include a third-party independent cost estimate. So while we're anticipating having the bids, the bid packages available to go out to contractors this upcoming Monday, March 25th, did want to at least kind of put together the final design, just see how little tweaks and changes, as well as the bidding market and what, what's seen with other projects, how that's impacted the kind of where we're at this point with the final design that's not anticipated to change. So I know Mark was able to help me out and upload this. Hopefully you guys all had a chance to take a look at it over the weekend or prior to tonight. There is actually, about a half hour ago, I was able to actually upload a slightly revised version. If anything, the number actually, the anticipated cost estimate actually went down slightly, as Maggie and I have made a few slight changes in the last day or two. Wasn't a big difference, but still wanted to note that. So if that is available, and Carrie can pull that up on the screen.
And it's the final update, correct?
Yes. So it should be easy to find in there as well.
Yep.
With that, there were some adjustments made. As you'll see, kind of the left column is the design development. The center column is the kind of construction documentation submission, and then the right column is the variance. So there were, some slight variances with that. The kind of the biggest is, certainly in the overall, but really partially because of the incidental budget, and that was just tracking all of the costs to date, plus the equipment that's to be purchased by the town, rather than having the contractor purchase that, mark it up, and then sell it back to us. Some of the things, the vehicle lifts, the crane, we can purchase those on contract directly. The installation is included within the purchase price, rather than paying the contractor to mark those up and sell them back. So I wanted to share this, felt that it would be helpful to also have MRB here to be able to help answer any questions, explain anything. Certainly these are, again, just cost estimates. Once we actually have once the bids come back, that'll come before this board again to actually review and be able to see the exact dollar amounts, but this is kind of where we're at this point. If you've got anything to add, Maggie?
Well, I think an important thing to note is that from the design development phase, which we completed about 6-7 months ago when we last had this estimate completed by Campus, our scope really hasn't changed. It's the same building. We haven't really grown in size. We haven't added more equipment. What we're seeing a reflection of what's happening in Western New York in the labor market. So what Campus Construction, who's our third-party estimator, did is they took every single line item in the budget and they added a percentage on top of it because we're so short on labor here in Western New York. And I don't know, did everyone get something with these bullet points?
Yep, I believe that was in the drop as
So
well.
what Campus put together is Campus, as the estimator, they're tracking all the bidding that's happening in Western New York, so they have a good handle on the different projects that are either out to bid now, already under construction, or will be hitting the street soon. And we have billions of dollars worth of construction that will be happening here in Western New York. And the problem that we're seeing is we just don't have the laborers to work on it. So what we're seeing higher than average labor costs because they're having to pay them overtime costs, or they're having to bring in traveling labor from out of the area. So what we're seeing in our budget is not necessarily scope creep, and it's not that we miss things in the first estimate, it's that we're trying to take a conservative approach to making sure that we protect the budget so that if numbers come in, we're accounting for where the market may be in about 5 weeks when we get bids back.
But we're not even sure of that.
Right.
So right now, we're 15%, and we don't know, that might go higher.
It could. We have no crystal ball to know how bids will come in.
Well, I can say one of the questions that I did ask Campus is not only with some of the projects that they kind of listed and rattled off that are in the works, up and coming, as well as what they even kind of know, long-term down the line, if they thought that there'd be a significant change in, if you were to hold off on this project, kind of wait a few years, and then pick it back up, if they thought that there would be any type of cost savings, and they said, really, no. The rate that materials are increasing from year to year is going to end up outweighing that, combined with the additional projects that they may not even know about already.
It's a complicated, big problem that's been going on for a while. I don't think it's going to get any better for a host of reasons that we don't have to necessarily get into, but we're competing against government entities with their big projects, and I'm just very familiar with it, and yeah, we'll see what happens. It's a tough environment.
As a town, if we look at this and say, okay, right now, before we've started, we're already seeing a 15% increase, where's the line? When and where do we draw a line and say, this has far exceeded anything we anticipated in a cost? Do we get 10 months into it and find that these costs continues to increase? Do we find that we can't find the workers because they're off doing something else? And now we're 30%, 40%. I'm just, how do we manage this for a, 24-month, 36-month timeframe?
So I don't think the numbers would, once we get the bids back, the numbers wouldn't be able to increase from there.
Are we sure of that? Could the project be delayed because the workers, the construction teams, they thought they were going to get?
It could, and that's where we protect the contract by putting dollar values in. For every day late that they're over their substantial completion deadline,
Gotcha.
they owe us. So we try and put in protections in the contract, but the whole idea of a public bid is that they're giving you the price and they're taking into account it's a 26-month construction duration, and they're
Right.
looking at the labor and they're tracking when they need that labor, and that's part of their bid, knowing that they're locked into that from that point on. Now, if we change the scope and Eric decides, you know what, I think that we need this equipment and that, certainly then the cost will grow. But what we've done is we've built into this about $100,000 worth of deduct alternates. So if on bid day the numbers come in higher, we know that there's $100,000 worth of scope in the project that we can back out. It's nothing extraneous, it's nothing fancy. We're just thinking, can we,
Actually, nearly $1 million in deduct alternates.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I was
$1 million.
gonna say,
No, like $1 million.
That's, yeah.
And the total number includes all of those alternates with the option that they would then be specified if they were to be left out and not included, what
Right.
each, and they're broken down line by line. I believe it actually specifies on Page 3 is the actual list of alternates and the anticipated estimate for each.
Oh, I see the million
The
there.
red.
Okay.
The red being the ones that are the deduct alternates and what the savings would be if they were not included. The one that's left in black writing is actually an addition alternate that's not included in the base bid. It's in the overall number, but that's something that would be, that's to add, I guess, above and beyond what's spec'd within the project. And that's that particular one is adding fire suppression within the existing sewer operations building.
And what we'll do is we'll actually have the contractors on their bid forms give a line item for all of these, so we can see what the numbers are. So when Eric comes back to you 6-7 weeks with the numbers as a group, you decide, what can we back out? Does it help our number? So it's a way we can protect the numbers for a little bit of wiggle room to the tune of $1 million.
Yep.
And I just remember change orders can be a big deal, but it's kind of MRB's job to really get into the details to make sure that's not going to be a big delta.
Yeah, and what we're doing is in our bid documents, we're asking for some unit costs for things that we may not know that we need, but we're saying, if we need it, what would you charge for it? And then because it's in the bid documents, they're held to that. So we're trying to look at all these different ways that we can safeguard the numbers to not be burned later.
Yeah, well, we'll see how the bids come out and then make decisions and move on.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of contractors have known that this project is going to be hitting the streets for the past year, and there is a lot of interest in it. And even though we have a list of very big projects happening in Western New York, there's some contractors that love working on DPW facilities, and they've been waiting for this. It's how much they want it, and that will be reflected in their bid.
That's fair.
So we just don't know.
And this number does include everything that's been spent to date and approved and allocated to date. This is not completely in addition to what's already been spent towards design or even the construction administration, construction observation that was recently voted on by this board. That's within this number.
And that's reflected in the incidental budget number.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that the companies that bid on this will be companies large enough to take this on and get it done.
Can I ask a question about how will you solicit bidders? Like where will the, I mean, I'm assuming it'll be in like the, I don't know, the clearinghouses and things like
Yes,
that.
so I can answer that. So there will be an advertisement that the clerk will send out to advertise in the paper, but ultimately all bid documents will need to go through Avalon Rochester, which is a plan room. It's a digital plan room, so everyone can go access the site and either have drawings digitally sent to them or they can have them printed. We also advertise in other plan rooms, but everyone is directed to Avalon to actually purchase the drawings so that we can then send addendums out and know everyone that's a current plan holder at that moment.
Avalon prints a lot of things, I know that. Well, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Thanks, Maggie.
Thank you.
Eric.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, next item on the agenda is the 1788 Penfield Road conditional use permit application for a tattoo artist studio. And Director Ivers is going to take the lead on this. Thank you.
Yes, and before I start, I'll give a brief overview of the application that's been received. The two business owners are in the audience and here and available to answer questions, so maybe this is a good time for them to come up, or maybe just one's coming up.
That will come.
Only one of you has to be the speaker if that's what you're more comfortable with.
I'll speak. She just had surgery, so, you know.
So the application is for 1788 Penfield Road. It's located just in the Four Corners District, and I'll bring up some images. They're looking to take over an existing Suite 4, and this is similar to some recent applications we've navigated, and so I'll just bring up some photos so you can see sort of where they're being proposed. This is the building, Suite 4. Parking is located behind the building. I will awkwardly try to...
It's okay, there's a lot of materials in the drop items, Ms. Ivers. We've reviewed it.
Everybody's reviewed it,
I don't know if
okay.
anybody really had concerns for Ms. Ivers to really, or to be authorized to proceed administratively here.
The only thing that I think we need to do, because with the last request, we did request a public hearing. Do we need to be consistent?
But here's my thought about that, is that no one came to speak at that one. If there was concerns about the use or the intensity of use, that would have maybe come out and played out in the last application. We had another application across the street for a new hair salon. That's a higher intensity use sometimes based on the change, and there was no issue or concern there. So that's why I thought you could make a case for making the application administrative. Had there been any people coming out to speak about the previous application, then certainly. But this is sort of in the same vicinity, similar type of use. Actually, one less artist is going to be located in this space than the other one. So certainly a judgment call on your part. To me, it felt like it could be administrative.
understand.
I think in that situation, it's because the concern was it was a vacant building previously, and then a change from what was the previous tenant at that location. Whereas here, I think, again, if it's a consistent use, I don't have as much of a concern. But I don't know, how do you feel, Kevin?
I don't have concerns with it. I would be willing to proceed administratively.
Yeah,
You're
I'm fine with that. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Unless you had any thing that you really wanted to say, we're going to expedite the process and have Ms. Ivers proceed administratively here to grant the conditional use permit.
I don't think we have anything to say.
Great, then, then I'll go ahead and make a motion that Ms. Ivers be authorized to proceed administratively here to grant the CUP.
I second that motion.
Roll call vote, please.
Thanks so much.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
Barry,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Leenhouts,
Aye.
Teglash,
Aye.
aye.
All right. Next item on the agenda, Dave Renner, bid results for the video playback server.
Yes, good evening.
Take it away.
So I sent out a note to each of you. This is more of a formality that we had to go to bid. This was an approved budget project, but the server itself is $29,000, so that required us to go out to a bid. This is a company that we've worked with previously, and they were the only bidder, and they came through with the numbers that we had expected. So we're just asking for authorization to award the bid.
Any discussion?
I'm okay, yeah. No, I think that's great.
Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion to proceed.
Second.
All right. Roll call vote.
Barry,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Leenhouts.
Aye.
Teglash,
Aye.
aye.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. I'll have a resolution to you for the next meeting.
Thanks, Dave.
Actually, that does bring up a good point. For the next meeting, as we're going through the work session agenda, you're all set, thank you. I wasn't going to pull it back on you. But if we just want to make a mental note in case you are unable.
Understood.
To
attend.
Yes, if you are comfortable with assuming 3 members of the board at that time voting without your presence, if you can just at least keep that in the back of your
Sure.
minds. Because I'm assuming if the resolution is prepared, that you are both okay on these
Correct.
very administrative matters. If there's anything contentious, of course, I don't think Supervisor Leenhouts would want to proceed without you anyway, but just wanted to.
Yeah, since you brought it up, the couple things. We could move it to the first week potentially when I'm not there, which wouldn't be a problem.
No, it's just, yeah.
But part of that is, and I think Mark's going to talk about it, we may do sidewalk public hearing potentially, and there may not be a lot of people around in the beginning of April. So that was one thought. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Okay. All right, employee handbook update.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Tracy.
So just back to answer more questions, or offer explanations. You've had the redlined, edited copy, I think, with you for a couple weeks now at least, and just wanted to go over any outstanding matters still.
Yeah, I'll start by saying Candace mentioned a couple changes she'd like, which
Sure.
don't seem to be a problem. Bob reached out to me beginning of the week, and he's not here. A couple of them were just questions he had that were easily answered some were based on changes we were proposing to make on vacation time, which would affect personal time.
Yes.
So that would scratch those items out of the employee handbook if we don't have personal time. And then he had a couple of questions I wish I had in front of me, but I think I said it to you, Tracy,
Yes,
actually.
I have it in front of me. I'm not sure I can go through,
That's okay.
if you want me to go through Bob's.
Well, you could,
first.
yeah, if it's quick. I don't think
there was a lot. What Supervisor Leenhouts was just referring to, one of Councilman Ockenden's notes on his, or questions, were you'll find throughout the document any reference to personal time was removed. The whole section on personal time would be removed if the changes to the sick leave were agreed upon. The sick leave, we were putting forth and recommending to expanding the use of sick leave for family members, children, parents, and spouses. A lot of what, and also for employees' own doctor's appointments, which currently sick leave cannot be used for. So we were relying on personal time to fill those gaps of what can be used. So with the expansion, again, if sick leave provisions were expanded, were acceptable, there would really be no need. And those 2 days that were allotted in the handbook of personal time were then added into vacation, so it wouldn't be a loss of accrual. There was also a little bump of an additional 3 days and some banding, dates of service banding changes in the vacation as well that you would have seen. But of that extra, basically 5 days, 2 of those would come from the personal being removed.
Gotcha. I know there was a couple other little things, but we can...
So that was one of the big ones. He had highlighted in some of our prohibited conduct, he had highlighted a passage that talks about the possession, use, distribution, sale, or being under the influence of alcohol, marijuana products, or illegal drugs during hours of work or while on town property or in town vehicles being a prohibited conduct. Pete, he had asked if you had reviewed that statement and the statement in Section 807, even though, and 807 is the drug-free workplace and drug-free awareness program. Those are standards. Those aren't anything new. Obviously, with the legalization of marijuana, we had to specify marijuana now because it is legal. But just like alcohol, you can't be, under the influence of it at work. So that's why that change had to specifically mention the use of marijuana now.
I had not looked at that, but if you want to forward that to me, if you want me to look at it, I will.
Yeah.
Email.
Again, with the legalization of marijuana, that became just a must-do for every handbook change because, again, it was easy to refer to illegal and alcohol being, under the influence, but that had to be specifically mentioned. So, but I'll be more than happy to forward that to you.
I think the other one was we crossed out elected officials, and maybe because it just didn't relate to that particular section that Bob referenced.
So, yes, he had asked about right now if an employee does not have health insurance with us, if they have it through a spouse or another, sometimes our employees under the age of 26 are still on their parents, things like that. He had why elected officials were excluded from the buyout provision. Typically, as of right now and as for years, we have 2 elected officials that are primarily considered full-time, and that would be our supervisor and our town clerk. However, historically, unless it is something you wanted to change, that was actually an error on the part of the company that revamped our handbook. Elected officials have never been allowed or, given the amount of buyout for alternate health insurance.
Gotcha.
I will say that, sometimes in the past, some of the elected officials have been retirees and they have it from others, but they are welcome to join our benefit plan. However, the idea of doing a cash payout or payment to them in lieu of having insurance was never something that was considered in the past. So that strikeout, that those, the 2 basically eligible elected officials was just kind of a cleanup for practice, for our common practice right now.
Can we go back to the question about the marijuana addition?
Mm-hmm.
Can you read that again to me?
Sure.
And Bob, by the way, we didn't go over each, I don't know exactly what his question was. He just highlighted it. So I don't know.
Yeah, so a question I would have, for example, is, so if you have it in your car, is it No, okay, I see he's texting.
I think it refers to town vehicles.
Town vehicle, yeah.
It's town vehicles.
Okay.
While on town property or in town vehicles. So it could be in your car.
Okay, but,
Again, when it comes to our drug-free workplaces,
like-
those are going to cover all properties.
all right, just like you wouldn't want to have a six-pack in the back of your
Exactly.
truck. Okay.
Exactly.
Or a privately owned vehicle being used for town business.
Yes, okay.
Anything else on that?
And then
Okay.
And, go ahead.
Trying to think of,
For the strikeout of elected officials from the buyout, is that, was that just a decision of past practice, or is that something that's required by a new regulation, a town law update?
no, that wouldn't be, that would just be our own benefits that we put together. That wouldn't be anything, of any, who we offer or what we offer. Those are all determined by us. There's no regulatory, except for the Affordable Care Act and things like that, of who we have to extend benefits to.
Okay, so it's at town discretion is what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Okay.
And I
think
just want to take a quick look in our old, I don't believe, like I said, I believe it was excluded in that, and that's why I said I think this was just an oversight on the company that we hired to do this, but I just want to quickly check that. Just to make sure that elected officials weren't in that before. Yes, it starts about eligible employees that do not participate, and elected officials aren't generally concerned as considered employees by the nature. So they are specifically specified elsewhere in benefits that the full-time elected officials would be, but under the old buyout, they were excluded as well. So it's not a change. Like I said, this coming into the new handbook is an error from the company that revised our handbook. And the compensation for an alternate insurance buyout currently, I believe, is $1,000 for a single, $2,000 for a two-person, and $2,500 a year for family.
Okay.
So I hear what you're saying. I'm still just processing because we're getting this information, here. So so I'm processing.
Yep.
Yeah, and we'll send something out. Nothing's going to happen tonight, certainly. And I know Linda's got comments. I'm not sure what they are.
Do we want to try and do this all tonight, though? Or it would be better to take this offline?
Oh, we could. I mean, I've requested input from town board members
Right.
for the last few weeks, so I mean, we could pause it to do that. That's fine.
Do we have a preference?
That would be my preference.
I think so, too, because I know Bob had questions. And I think, just to take this back, I think the handbook came to us first in November of last year, and we had wanted to really take a look at the handbook, and part of retaining talent, bringing the handbook into a lot of more, modern day benefits and offerings to make the town not only a good and positive place to work for existing employees, but also to make it attractive to attract new talent. And so I think in the last 4 or 5 months, it's really come a long way. And I think Leenhouts had updated the board that he had met with you several times, and also a special breakout group of department heads to really take a pulse on what's important to staff, what's important to consider in a collaborative process for review of the handbook, and things like expanding sick so that it includes sick for yourself, but also members of your family. That's very important.
It is.
And personal time, and again, lunch breaks, and these things that I think, you've done a great job. And you've done a great job, Tracy, also to really take a pulse of that. So I think, again, it's come a long way, and I think there are other things that Linda, Kevin, and Bob, we do want a chance to kind of talk through, and it's important to get the information, but it's just hard to process and then react on the spot.
Sure.
So I think it would be helpful, Supervisor, if you, I don't think we're ready for a resolution today, but we can continue to talk about it.
Absolutely. And, everyone's busy, and I get it. I know, talking to Pete, that, it can't be kind of a, and correct me if I'm wrong, Pete, executive session type thing. But if I would prefer people just to respond to me what they'd like to do. We'll tweak, make changes, get it back, and,
It's hard to draft something like this by committee,
Yeah.
So giving comments to you, working proposed revisions in, and then it kind of creates a target to react to.
Don't blame me if you're sick, Pete, because sorry.
I may have caught it from you. No, I'm joking.
I'm not. I think
I am.
You're stuck.
So where was I going? So I don't think that it would be appropriate for executive session. Some aspects of it would be appropriate for attorney-client, but I think the best way to do it, a most efficient way, is to kind of get you the comments and.
Yeah, then we can send it out to the board, showing who would like what change, and some kind of a summary that Tracy can help me with, if that makes sense.
Give you just a general, and then I will send this out.
Sure.
There was something removed that department head appointments will be made by resolution of the town board. That's been stricken out, so I assume that is not something we're doing anymore.
It's something we've never done.
Okay.
So again, some of this is clarifying.
Fair. Under 302, it was about pre-employment physicals, and originally it said, additionally, all final applicants for a position must consent to be tested for the presence of a controlled substance. The line that requires a commercial driver's license was removed, implying that all applicants must go to drug test. I want to go back to what are the controlled substances we're looking for, ensuring that we're no longer looking for marijuana.
No.
That now has been removed.
That's been removed.
Okay. Discipline, there was a line about.
How would you define controlled substances, though? Because it would still be like marijuana is still a controlled federal substance, but so to the extent there's a discrepancy, you would want to.
We kind of, we follow typically the traditional DOT, what they test for, with the exception of marijuana, because DOT is federal. So we still, for our DOT, the CDL licenses, we still have to test for marijuana. So even for new CDLs, it's still in there, but for our general employee population without commercial driver's license, it's the remaining.
Okay, as long as that's clear.
Yeah.
Yes, we have different,
to be clear, yeah.
When we schedule the appointments, it's DOT or non-DOT, and it's very clear that those.
I have several concerns under the section of discipline 306. So I've got several things there to suggest, as well as there's one last sentence that the town retains the right to discipline employees in any manner it sees fit, which really set up.
We have to follow sections, okay, so.
Right, but I mean.
It is, whether, we choose to.
Torture.
Well, that's not allowable.
So you're still governed by the civil service law.
Yes, or
Well,
grievance
yes,
and arbitration.
Unless,
Yes.
I'm just saying
Yes.
that there's got to be consistency when it comes to discipline. That is, to me, the
Yes.
biggest concern I would have. With discipline, it has to be consistent, whatever department you're in, civil service, you've got to have a clear thing, and it also has to be, because it says sometimes we'll investigate, it just needs to be clearer, and I'll
Sure.
send my comments.
Definitely.
I think separation, exit interviews should be for everything, at least for full-time, not at the request of the employee. I think that should be a requirement. It helps the town determine why are we losing people.
We have in the past had those unwilling, but we do put it out there.
I think a lot of it is consistency. There was something about refusal to work additional hours. An employee who, after investigation, is found to have refused to work additional hours as directed will be subject to appropriate disciplinary action. And I thought,
So there are.
Certainly you want to figure out why they couldn't.
Certainly.
So that just needed some clarification.
Certainly, and, again, those are,
Right.
kind of the mandatory, some of the emergency response and mandatory overtime, that's important for certain, hits certain departments much more than others.
Again, just clarification. I had some questions on vehicle usage, outside employment suggestion. Is that perhaps what you want to do, is if employees do want to seek outside employment, that they first request?
We had
Share it
talked
with
about
you.
that earlier, and just very briefly, the areas of concern are conflicts. So we don't want necessarily somebody in our assessor's department doing outside appraisal work within the town of Penfield.
Right, and we used to say if you are, mostly just for full-time employees, if you are going to seek additional employment, you need to let us know what that is so that we can work through a conflict. I love the section on cancer screening, but I think it's too limited to cancer screening. 4 hours, I think.
That's the law.
Right, but what about heart disease? What about diabetes tests? What about, mental health testing? I think it's great that we call out cancer screening for that, and I understand it's a law, but I don't know where the other things.
Those other things would be now within the expansion of sick leave.
Okay.
That you would be able to have those accruals used for appointments instead of just your illness and injury.
Okay. And then I have some other things that I'd rather send to you separately.
I do want to go back to the screening and interviewing. That seems to have been a pretty significant general concern.
Sure.
And you said that the appointments have never been made by resolution of the board?
Not that I'm aware, no.
Any appointments,
No.
for any position, department heads, anything?
Not by formal resolution. So in there, as you'll see, and that's not a change, the department head and, either acting or deputy or assistant department heads, those that we would typically fall into groups 1 or 2 on our salary schedule, town board has, always either been involved or, I know when I was hired, I did not necessarily meet with a town board member. When Barbara was, it was a town board member and supervisor. So that has been, if they want to participate, that has always been welcome. Anybody below that has been typically interviewing and selection has gone through department head, HR, and supervisor. But they're typically. But again, the formality of going through town board resolution, no.
Yeah, maybe you just said it, but I certainly want this town board involved in department head hires.
Yes.
But we may not have to go to the formal resolution to do it, I guess.
The selection process is pretty open.
But at the end of the day, the town board should, by resolution, like, let's say the process is, somebody's going to be hired for maybe a lower level department position, but at the end of the day, that person, I think, needs to be, that appointment needs to be approved by the town board in some way.
When I think, and I could, and Barbara might be the one to answer this, with the adoption of the authorized positions early in the year, that are the...
We did not adopt that resolution.
When you do, with the budget, when you adopt a budget, they're all in there. When you adopt salary schedules, those titles and everything are all in there. So when Barbara does the budget for each department salary line, there is a job title, whether it's full-time, it always attached. Even the vacancies, they're always in there for those particular titles.
So you're just going to have to decide how you want to do it going forward, so that I don't think that there's a...
So certainly it would be within our purview to have it be that way, that for our department head, it could be by resolution of the board?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Because ultimately, the town board is responsible for the, hiring employees of the town.
Because I think there needs to be something very consistent so that going forward, we just know how it's going to happen. There won't be town board involvement for this department head, no town involvement for that department head.
Well, I just said we're not going to do that, but if you want to make it a formal resolution, then submit your comments to me and, we can make changes. I'm not opposed to that.
Just 2 cents on that. The only concern that I had is that typically our hiring process is long enough, and to have to wait then for, one town board meeting a month to put the resolution in for new hires could possibly delay that. I was told before in my past kind of practice that town boards aren't supposed to do retroactive approvals. So.
Right.
Yep. So I don't know if just, from that.
Yeah,
But
I
definitely
think-
the interviewing and the selection process, yes.
I think this conversation needs to be fully vetted offline, because I think there's a lot to unpack here, and I think if the one resolution that I at least was referring to at the beginning of the year that delegated the authority from the town board to remove, to allow that red line that would require resolution by the board, that was never voted on. And I'm positive of that.
No, I know that,
So,
definitely.
okay. So but in that case, I think it makes sense to kind of collate all the comments through you, but I still would like at least some opportunity to kind of discuss, because there may be some red lines where if it's just answered or talked through with other boards, and it's going to be a non-issue, and I just don't want to inundate you, because it looks like Linda, just from her comments, has quite a few. So I just don't want to inundate you with a lot. I think it'd be much quicker to just kind of talk through it first, and then really kind of identify what the key changes or what the board feels very strongly on. Because as you know, right, the board has full authority over the employee handbook. It's in the preamble as well as in the first.
Candace, will you take the lead on it for me? Because I'd appreciate it. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
Great.
Absolutely. But I think, you're integral to the process, right?
No, I will
And as
input my comment as a town board member and as the town leader of 130 full-time staff. But if someone else can put it on their plate to take the lead, that's all I'm asking.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Just
Okay.
one point of clarification, too, because I know you just referenced the resolution that was put forward to the beginning of the year. That, and I just want to be perfectly clear on that. That was to clarify our common procedural practice at the time. That was to correct that, not a precursor to the change in the handbook. As I mentioned before, we have never put them down by resolutions. Our old handbook said that we did, but we didn't. So it was more of a procedural cleanup, or trying to do a procedural cleanup, than to kind of take away authority or anything like that. It was just purely procedural, and trying to clean what our common practice was versus what our literature said. I just wanted to have it be consistent to practice.
Yeah, no, I get that.
It could be delegated, but
It could be
first,
delegated.
it's the town board's responsibility. And you talked earlier about, those appointments there's various ways to get there, through the budget process and the line items of every, person. But I think what we're talking about here is maybe coming up with a way to make sure that, how do we hire people going forward? And
Certainly, I think, it's going forward, because I'm thinking of a couple department head or vacancies now that was not part of the budget process. So as vacancies occur, we do need a consistent process, like Kevin was saying, and Jeff has said he wants this board involved, and he this is all going to be a team effort. So I appreciate where you're coming from. I think for me, the jurisdiction of the board is something that's defined in law, and so that's what I'm always going to default to, unless the board, even just apart from me, unless the board as a body decides to delegate that authority, it should always default to the town board. So that's kind of where my thinking is. But all right, so I think this is helpful. We're not going to have a resolution tonight. Jeff, we'll go ahead and circle the board, and I'll kind of collate the responses, and then we'll include you as appropriate, and then
That would be great.
look to Pete to make sure we stay in line. Thank you, Tracy.
And I would just say, we need to get to it, because we have another new opening. I think I shared someone that's going to retire that's significant. And so, we'll get this done. Thank you.
No worries.
All right, zoning map amendments. Director
So
Ivers.
this is continuation of a conversation we had at
Thanks,
the
Tracy.
last work session.
Yeah.
Informational item. So there have been some recommendations for zoning map cleanup, if you will. So changing the current zoning designation for a handful of properties to what makes more sense going forward, given potential for redevelopment. The board indicated its support to move forward with that project, so I'd be looking to prepare a resolution to initiate the zoning, God bless you, if that was a sneeze, initiate a zoning amendment or initiate the resolution to begin the process of considering those the zoning map changes, and that would require me preparing a resolution to set a public hearing date to consider those. As part of that process, we would outline the properties in question. Matt Prinzing in the planning office was kind enough to develop it in table form, because looking at it in a big map can be a little bit overwhelming, and so people can sort of see the list of which properties, what the current zoning is, and what it's being proposed to. So I was wanting just to have your approval to move forward with the resolution.
Carrie, how many properties are there?
That is a great question to have an actual count. I do.
It may be, so I think this is it possible to do those now? I know you could do a resolution to have hold a hearing on all of the properties, but I guess I want to make sure, like, there might be groups of properties that are, like, let's say there's a number of properties that are all grouped together right next to
it tends to be like there's 2 properties over here, there's 1 property over there, there's 3 properties over here. They're a little bit spread out. I thought it might be cumbersome because you have to do them one street at a time.
I'm thinking, is there a way, thinking at the end of the process, when it comes time to decide whether to rezone, can we have those be separate resolutions for each property or group of properties?
So if there was any concern about moving forward with, say, one of them on the list, then the final resolution would just leave that one off the list, I thought, perhaps. So if there's no objection, you could move forward with a wholesale map amendment that says, here are the collection of changes that are being made to the official zoning map. If there is any that were originally presented as an option, and either through the course of the public hearing or any public comment received, the town board had any pause about moving forward with one or more of those could just be eliminated from the action and adoption of the amended zoning map. If you think that's not appropriate, then we could certainly take it up as individual resolution for each item.
Yeah, well, that's why I was wondering how many properties, like rough estimate.
I think I remember from the conversation there were like
14,
about 10 to 15.
Somewhere in that range.
And they were grouped by, you had them by districts.
Yeah, they were, and they're sort of, and I do apologize, I tried to, hang on one second, I had this.
I think I'd like to have them by, if you could group them by district, might be a good way to do it.
Okay. Some of them don't land in a district per se. I mean, they land, we can certainly talk about the best way to proceed. We could still set the public hearing, correct?
Yep.
On the zoning map amendment. I was thinking about it more in terms of there are times where towns undertake sort of a complete overhaul of their zoning map based on a comprehensive plan, and so when they do that, they do it in one fell swoop, and you just adopt a new zoning map that reflects those changes.
I just want to account for the possibility of there being, what if there's a conflict on a particular property?
Forgive me. Yes, we certainly could do it by district if you wanted me to do the various business districts.
Why don't you and I talk about it, but we can have it be that you prepare at least one resolution to hold the public hearing, and then you and I can talk about the logistics of that.
Absolutely. We can move forward with it by district, and if you want me to prepare the resolution so that we're breaking up the individual properties by zoning district, that might be helpful too.
Yeah, you know what, I'm just thinking about, like, how do you notify the public and make sure that you get the participation so that they know which one to talk about. And you'll put the signs up in every affected property or not.
Yeah, I think because it's a map amendment and there's no physical change being proposed.
Well, but there are individual properties.
Yes, there are.
Because you won't get people.
We could do
All
signage.
this, I'd be a surprise, like it's my next door neighbor, and all of a sudden it's rezoned, and I was like, whoa, I don't look at.
We definitely would do postcards to the same
Okay.
perimeter around each of the properties.
It might be, yeah, okay.
We can figure out.
What's the postcard, what's the perimeter of the postcard for?
500 feet, isn't it?
Well, it's 500 feet, but it's at a minimum, and then depending on the size of the parcel, if the parcel's really large,
So
then
it's from the edge of the parcel.
Well, actually, GIS works off a centroid, so it takes the center of the parcel, so sometimes a large parcel,
It might-
500
yeah,
feet doesn't even leave the property, so
So
we've got a policy in place that if it's a such and such size parcel, then it goes to 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet, to make sure, at the very least, we make sure it touches every neighboring or abutting parcel, so those are included, but it works off the centroid, so otherwise, some parcels you'd never get off with a 500-foot radius, but we have an adopted policy for that we'll make sure we follow.
What about if it's a parcel that's well, okay, we'll talk about that offline.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
So with those comments, are there any other concerns for the board, at least, with authorizing the public hearing?
No.
Okay, then I'd like to make a motion for a resolution to be prepared for a public hearing on the zoning map amendments, subject to the conditions that the town attorney has advised with respect to grouping of the potential rezoning by districts and/or as best as possible, with sufficient notice to all impacted residential spaces, and any other further review as recommended by Mr. Weishar.
How many, I know it's not, there's a motion, but not a second, but is, it like, I guess the concern will be to the extent that we're talking about residential properties, like single-family residential properties, as opposed to a change from LB to GB or something like that. That would be where the concern would be on notice, I think.
Yeah, typically the ones that are being potentially rezoned from a residential to something non-residential or higher intensity residential are located on main corridors like Empire Boulevard, Browncroft,
Fairport 9 Mile.
Fairport 9 Mile, Route 250. So they're all located on like busy roadways.
But if they're, I think, yeah, if it's a residential though, I think that's where you're going to want a sign, even though that might not.
Oh, absolutely. We could put signs at each one of them if that's deemed prudent.
Certainly a residential to a more intense use, I would think that might be.
Absolutely.
Okay, those are my comments, so.
Some of them are going from one type of residential to a different type of residential, so we can chat about, we can definitely, I will heed your guidance on how we do this the best way.
I will second the motion.
That was just my motion.
Sorry about that.
I think it's still good.
Sorry.
Yes.
I try not to interrupt anymore.
Roll call vote, please.
Barry?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Leenhouts?
Aye.
Teglash?
Aye.
All aye.
All right. Carrie, you're up again, I believe.
Yes. So the next item is, again, one we talked about at last month's work session meeting to advance potential regulation updates for the Four Corners zoning district. Those draft regulations would be attached to a resolution, again, initiating a local law to revise the regulations and set a public hearing to consider them. And so I would be looking for permission to initiate that process. If they were to go forward after the resolution is adopted, the draft regulations would be posted to the town's website. Same with the potential for the rezoning or the map amendments. Those get posted under the projects under community interest on our town webpage. And then for that one in particular, I would probably reach out to the property owners. We might not do a full mailing, but we have at least enough of a mailing list of some of the key property owners to let them know that there's potential updates to the zoning regulations so that they're not surprised by that.
Carrie, went to look at this today, was there supposed to be documents out in the folder?
I apologize. I tried to create the shortcut link
Right.
from the last month's work session. The draft should have been, it was in the last.
Okay.
It's in
Okay.
there, and I tried to create a shortcut, and that was not working as well as, I apologize.
I mean, then
I'm so sorry. And I was trying to do this 5 seconds before I went on vacation, so I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just wanted to make sure
It's in the
that
work
I could
session.
find it.
It's in the work session from February. But I'll resend the link so that make it easier for you guys to track it down.
No, and it's on me because I was getting ready for the meeting and all these other things. I was like spending time over the weekend, and this one, it's like, oh, I'll get to that last.
No worries,
Save it
no
for-
worries. And if it's easier, it's a Word document, so I'm happy
Okay.
to send it to you
That's
just
fair.
as a Word document.
That's fine.
Yeah, clerk, make sure those are reflected in the minutes that she was racing out to vacation. That's good.
Yes.
Okay, do we need a motion? Sorry.
Yes, if
Yeah.
somebody would be so kind to make the motion, I'd appreciate it.
I would make the motion that Carrie proceeds with a resolution for a public hearing.
And to establish the local law.
Right.
Perfect.
I'll second.
Okay.
Roll call vote?
Oh, Barry?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Leenhouts?
Aye.
Teglash?
Aye.
All aye.
Okay, Mark, you're on.
I'm up, finally.
You're up, yes, sir. Sidewalk waiver.
Join the fun. So I think this is the first time the sidewalk waiver request has become before this board. So in the drop, there's a fancy little map that we worked on with the past town board. If there's kind of a line 250-ish, if it's east of that, it's an administrative review by the PRC. If it's west of that, then it comes to this board. So basically what we have and have established is there's areas obviously that we have priorities for sidewalks along mainline roads. This area in particular is kind of one remaining parcel that falls within the Silverwoods neighborhood. So it was a 5-mile line house, the backyard went into the neighborhood. There are no existing sidewalks within Silverwoods, so the resident has basically asked for a waiver from installing the sidewalk. Knowing that there's a cost to installing the sidewalk, we've established a process and basically a spreadsheet that we use the county bid prices, see what it would cost them, and then we basically look at 50% of the construction cost with a maximum cap of $5,000. So it's not overly burdensome on a resident, but they would take that, we would take that amount, they would pay it at the time of their building permit, that would go into the sidewalk fund, and then that money would be used on other sidewalks that we may be talking about later, in this meeting or later on down the way. So I ran the formula. Based on that, they do a bump up to the $5,000 waiver amount. So their choice is install sidewalks, which would cost them $12,000 or more, or pay $5,000 into the town sidewalk fund, and then we would use those on other locations at this board discretion. So I don't know if there's questions, concerns about that. There's no other sidewalks in that area, so it's not really connecting anything. It's not, a leading or leaving a gap within that. And then we use the county bid price, which I'm happy to say that the county bid price is much, much higher than what we got ours locked in at. So we are paying $56 a foot for a short section of sidewalks. The county is paying $114 a foot, and then for longer sections, theirs is at $78. So we're seeing a marked increase in the cost of sidewalks just as we, kind of head towards budget season and everything else. But the county's paying significantly more than what we had bid out in the fall. So
Same width?
Same width.
Okay.
5 foot wide.
Is that because they're more recent?
Theirs was just bid in February, so
it's like,
ours was
just like what they were saying.
Ours was done in November, so a little bit different. The county can be anywhere, so I think they hedge their bets a little bit, and that's why they've got a short section. If you're replacing 1 or 2 blocks, there's not much efficiency in that.
Yeah.
Most of the sidewalks we do are half a mile long or hundreds or thousands of feet. Obviously, there's much more efficiency in that, so we get typically a better number.
So given that there aren't any other sidewalks in that neighborhood, to me, it seemed illogical to kind of encourage this resident to put into it. So I don't have any objections to the waiver request.
Okay.
Is this something, Mark, that you need a resolution for, or can it be done administratively?
We do it administratively, so if the board can just do a roll call vote that you're approving that, I'll send them a letter, and then, copy the building department, and the building department will then take the fee at such time the building permit is issued.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to move forward with this.
I'll second.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Barry?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Leenhouts?
Aye.
Teglash?
Aye.
All aye.
Okay, great. Pump station, Mark.
So this is a REDI project. So most of the board's familiar with state, federal sent monies to help establish or betterments to areas along lakeshore high water elevations. So back in 1719, there was high water impacts to storm sewers, sanitary sewers. So we've got one pump station that's at the bottom of Irondequoit Bay, so right in LaSalle's Landing Park. That was one we got some funding for. It was noted that the pump station, while not in the floodplain, actually you can go to the second map.
Okay.
This shows the manhole raising up. Yep. So.
It is not letting me open it.
Okay. The board has it, we can talk about it. So while the pump station is not in the floodplain, it's within that buffer area with the high waters. So we got funding to raise the pump station up 2 feet. So at the time, literally pick it up, raise it 2 feet. It changed some of the pumps. The pumps can no longer do the suction height to change that. It changed the hydraulic curve on it. So in working with the sewer department, we're actually going to do some improvements to the station. At the same time, one, make it look better, because we ought to take the enclosure off to fit the new pumps in. And knowing we've got the LaSalle's Landing bathroom coming, we're looking to kind of pair it that it looks kind of similar in kind. It looks a little bit better. But then this pump station would be upgraded, and so we're kind of taking the money they've got, some money from the sewer department, and then have a new pump station that'll operate for many years in the future. So.
Yep, and we got DEC approval for this as well.
Yes, they just signed off on that. So
yeah, I think that's what we were waiting for.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's something necessary, and we reviewed the bid design. So unless I don't have any objections, at least authorizing for it to go out to bid, and then we have more information to go from.
Once the bids come back in, obviously we'll be back before this board to look at those costs.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to authorize the project to go out to bid for summer construction, please.
I'll second that.
Okay. Vote, please.
Barry?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Leenhouts?
Aye.
Teglash?
Aye.
All aye.
All right. Mark, you're still up.
I'm still up. So the next one is kind of an annual item we do, is to put out kind of a call for sidewalks in the community, see where there is interest. So this is basically setting a community information meeting. The information is more information gathering, so it's just a call to residents to share their requests. So the top section is sidewalks that are approved and we're looking to install this year. So that's the Plank Road, Penfield Road by Gentles Market, a couple of spots on 5 Mile Line, and then Willow Pond Way, which was actually through a CDBG grant. So that's a community development block grant. The ones down below are requests that we've had in the recent years, and I've even got to update the list. Matt Prinzing, our GIS specialist, went through and found some others that we've got, so I've got to update those, and I'll get those to the board ahead of the next meeting. So as we, again, look at budgets, we've got a $200,000 current budget for sidewalks, and we've got about $2.4 million worth of requests. So obviously we can't do them all at once, but we're always looking for grant funding, safe routes to schools, other opportunities. So we'll continue to track these requests. So just kind of looking to see at looking at potentially the next ledge meeting, setting a public hearing, public information meeting. At that time, residents can come in, share their thoughts, additional requests if we're not already capturing them here. We typically leave that open for a period of time. If people can't come that night, they can still send in emails, phone calls, send a letter. We'll continue to gather those, and then the May, June timeframe, come back to this board. We can do some refinement to our costs, put them on a map, and then kind of discuss where and what you want to move forward with. And then these would be for 2025 construction. So if May and June the board makes a decision, says this is where we want to go, I then go contact the surveyor does their job, they get us the data back, we do the internal design that takes us through the fall, winter, we do the permitting process, then that brings us into spring, summer 2025 construction. So that's why we're kind of a year out, but that's just the amount of time. If it's on a state highway, obviously much more timely, county highway, whatnot. So this just kind of captured what we've seen so far and just kind of want to provide it to the board just to see, the scope and scale of what we've been requested thus far.
Yeah.
Would you see, I know you said you have others that aren't on this list. Would you let me know if the Jackson Road, not the extension, or I'm sorry, wait, Jackson Road extension, if Jackson Road extension is on your list? I see that the old Jackson Road to
The looped pieces, I call Old Jackson.
Right.
That's in there.
But the actual Jackson Road extension, which right now, a portion of it takes you all the way up to the park, right up to Veterans. And then there's a beginning of it, and it would be, I've heard a lot of residents say they'd like it continued because that's a very busy road now. A lot of people cut through. They have a lot of trucks going up and down that road.
Okay.
But there's a large section where there is no sidewalk, and that's actually there's a very wide shoulder on each side of the road. So it seems like a perfect place just to finish that sidewalk.
Yeah, I look at that piece, Matt, kind of captured a couple and said, hey, you missed it.
But I was just curious if
But if not, obviously, we can add it, and then we'll have that to compare.
How does the public make a formal request for it to get on this spreadsheet?
They can email the engineering department, they can put a phone call into us, show up at the public information meeting. So we don't make it too formal of a process. They can go on the website. We've got spots they can request it on the website, so we try to make it as easy as possible to, get that information or get those requests into us.
Okay, because I know this one goes straight, but I just want to make sure
Others, they can
they
can reach out to me, they can reach out to whomever.
You might already have it.
Yep, I'll add it on there, and that's where we're putting it up to the public. If people see and go, hey, I don't see the one that I put in, didn't mean to forget you, we'll make sure it's on there, and just
No, and that's a good point, though, because I like that. That's a very good point. My question was to see if it hasn't been submitted. If you find it's not there, don't put it on because of me. I'll have the residents reach out so that it's formally coming from the residents. That's a good point.
No, and just in case they can't make the hearing, because I think I'm looking at the scheduling for April 10th. Certainly don't oppose the hearing, but I wonder if it would make sense to hold the comment period before the board regroups to start looking at the requests. We hold it for like a 2-week period.
Well, it could even hold until even the
May meeting or whatever. They would give staff time to map them all out. We'll put them on a map so you can see them visually as well as put some cost to it. So typically we'll hold it open for 2 weeks afterwards. People can email in their comments, call us. We can then put some cost to it so the board understands the cost of application. Put it on a map, and then, even into our May agenda, come back and say, here's what we had as requests, and then the board can
And I just want folks to at least have a rolling time period to comment, because the April 10th falls, but there are the public schools and private schools, it falls between the spring and Easter break, so just in case. And then, can you remind me, for the ones that are slated for 2024, when you say slated, does that mean it's already been committed to, approved, and allocated?
Yes.
Okay. Just asking, not trying to take away from it. I just want to understand the.
Nope, that's why it's on the list.
All right.
The board had approved it. We've budgeted for it. We've got grant funding for portions of it, so.
Okay. And if we did move forward I'm sorry, it's to authorize a hearing. Okay.
It's not a hearing, we're calling it a community information meeting to request information from the community. And I think Mark and I have chatted about the fact that public hearing and public information meeting are two different things, and people conflate them. So by changing public information meeting to community information meeting, we might help differentiate the two. Because a public hearing is a formal, you're receiving information that's required typically by law for certain actions, versus a community information meeting.
Reaching out to the public to share your.
Be a meeting. Are you proposing a meeting in front of the town board, or just, okay.
So this is.
Doing it on a ledge night, the board's already here, the public can come up, share their thoughts and input, they can do it offline as well if they're not able to.
So is this coming under public participation?
We can make it a separate item, that night, so at least it's.
Okay, so definitely not opposed to it, and I can certainly take notes and send to you both, or you can, of course, rewatch the session. Are you comfortable with it on April 10th? Okay.
Yeah, we're not looking to make any decisions that night anyway, so it's just
Okay.
an
Call in
information
if
session.
necessary.
Yeah, I did-
I like that.
I should have just commented right up front, but I'll say a couple things. One, I mean, I get requests, I wouldn't say daily, but quite often, and I'm tracking them. I've certainly had requests for Jackson Road, and some roads are difficult, but I don't think they're impossible. I know that I got a request from the new Ryan project, which is really difficult on the east side of the road, and I'm kind of looking towards Mark, because there's a ditch, and then it's complicated on Jackson, between kind of the park heading north to the new development. What's it called again, Mark?
Rocco Pines?
Yeah, Rocco Pines.
Yeah.
But to me, I hope we connect from Shadow Pines all the way to the park. It's just Veterans Memorial Park is a hope. And then the other thing just to throw out there is we're communicating with the county who will contribute funds to county roads. So that seems to be, something we got to take advantage of. And I think everyone's lining up to do that. So we're trying to get ahead of that. So everyone will be included, I guess is what I'm saying. They can either email me, and when I have the Meet the Supervisor events, there's always a few people, or there was a couple people, I'm sure there will be next week, that'll have their sidewalk requests. Because, I get it. So, yeah.
So do you need a resolution from us since it's not a formal hearing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it was
All
just
right.
more of a make sure the board was comfortable with that approach, and so I don't even know if we need a formal vote on that. I think it's just it's not a formal public hearing.
Can we add, let's change one of those Jackson Road names?
Well, and that's why I would look to put them on a map as,
Really think of it, yeah.
put them on a map as well and highlight it. So one, we can point to the map, we have specific spots, and everybody knows the exact part of Jackson
Call it
Road.
Teglash Trail, or?
When I think of it, I always think of the extension as the original road, and I know.
It's hard. Well, first of all,
See,
if I had to.
the extension's the lower end as I look at it, and then that's why I call
One's a
it
straight shot.
Old Jackson on.
I would lose a bet every time if I had to pick which one on a map without the names on there.
But I still mess it up. So anyways, no, I'm just joking.
No, I don't.
I'm getting a statue, Candace. You can.
No, I'm with you on that, Linda. All right. So I wish I had my glasses, but I think we're going to talk about expanding the EECC committee. And I guess it's on you, Mark, but we've talked about it. But go ahead.
Yeah, so obviously the board just updated to 5 members. Kevin's the liaison to the committee, and I know there's a request to go up to at least 7, if not more, just to handle the load of reviewing new applications that came in and stuff to look at. So I think the board's had discussions before, so I don't think this is any new information, amongst the group. But
What is the ask now to go from 5 to 6 or 5 to 7?
Well, 5 to 7, so there would remain an odd number for voting purposes.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that of course for committees you want them to be a smaller work group and not get too unwieldy, but it makes sense for every committee. We got to think about contingency planning, and we don't want 2, 3, 4 vacancies on a committee. So it certainly seemed reasonable, and I know that there were great candidates that the board had interviewed. So I'd like to make I'm sorry, why don't you as the liaison make that motion?
And first I wanted to say that going, to be the liaison to the committee, it was readily noticeable that they do a significant amount of going out and viewing things, assessing things as far as, different situations. So it was readily apparent that the number of people that were there could not handle that. So, so I would like to make a motion.
Kevin, not to stop you, but just to explain it, this is kind of a precursor to asking for new applicants to step up to fill those 2 positions then we have, right? Is it 5 or 6 we currently have?
There's 5 right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we're down to 4. We just filled 1 spot to 5.
Okay. Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yep. So I'm making a motion to expand the committee, the EECC, from 5 to 7 members.
I'll second that. A roll call vote, please.
Barry.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Leenhouts.
Aye.
Teglash.
Aye.
All aye.
Okay, great. Ivers Valentine team effort here.
Yeah. Yeah, so
IMA.
As you know, that this has been an ongoing project that's been under the review of the town board. Our esteemed attorney has prepared a draft intermunicipal agreement that's currently under review by the Monroe County Law Department as well. And so even though I'm saying the words right now, really any questions or changes you have, you need to look at Mr. Weissar to discuss those and identify any changes that would be needed.
Ms. Ivers put the initial draft together, though. Yeah, I tried to keep this simple and, just make sure there's consideration. We were discussing the amount of time. An IMA can be 5 years, unless there's nothing here that would qualify for it to be longer than 5 years. And I think it should be at least 5 years, and then, since we're investing in some infrastructure, and then after that, I think it would just be an evergreen, subject to termination. There's a couple things that are missing here. You have to also consider the county has a bunch of standard clauses that was also in the drop. There was the town, Mark sent me, and I neglected to give it to Carrie. Or maybe Eric sent it to me. I don't remember who it was. There is a map that shows the area of the site that's going to be improved and fenced, and that I would envision being a part of the contract as well.
Sure.
This could be revised because I don't have I haven't confirmed that the county law department's okay with it, but I don't think that there's any deal breakers in here for them. I'd be surprised, so.
Right.
We've got similar IMAs in place right now for the Gloria Drive landfill and what we do to a system over there. So this is kind of in keeping with something that's already out there, so hopefully it's not a big
Right, so
change.
for this, the resolution would be authorizing the supervisor to enter into the intermunicipal agreement, and we could put the language in there that it's been subject to the final review and of the town attorney and Monroe County Law Department. This way, there's that stopgap that.
If there's a change, as long as it's a minor change,
sure,
really of substance, then it's still going to be fine to have the supervisor sign it.
Right.
Okay. We need a motion, move things forward.
Well, we would want a resolution.
A resolution, approval to prepare a resolution?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to prepare a resolution. Unless there's any comments.
Any reservations moving forward on April 10th?
No, I'm okay. At this point, I'm good.
Any reservations moving forward April 10th?
No, I think it's okay.
Okay. Okay, then I would second that motion.
Thank you.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Barry?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Leenhouts?
Aye.
Teglash?
Aye.
All aye.
Okay, last on the list, a discussion about fire discharge. I know we had tabled this to May. I just wanted to move it up to get to at least some short-term resolution. I don't know if I have any more comments that people haven't heard, before. I guess the one thing, and I talked to Mark a little bit about this, is just changing the verbiage from hunting map, right, to firearm discharge.
Yeah, we've been through that.
Which I think was the
Basically,
intent.
the misnomer, because as we've discussed before, the town of Penfield doesn't have jurisdiction over hunting. That falls under DEC. We also don't have jurisdiction over the distance from a structure that firearms are discharged. That falls under the state regulation as well. So for us, it's just changing the map to a firearm discharge map, and then, what those boundaries want to be.
Any discussion on it, or, yeah?
I will tell you, I've been doing some research, and one thing I found that I've got to dig into a little bit more to make sure we all have a very clear understanding. New York DEC, when it comes to firearm discharge, you may discharge a firearm within 500 feet of an occupied dwelling or structure, right? We all know that. Only if you own it, lease it, are an immediate member of the family, an employee, or have the owner's consent. And we've never talked about that.
So that, right.
And so I will tell you, I am leaning more toward making changes, looking at ways that we can have more of a say for the safety of our townspeople. So I if we bring it to discussion, I would prefer that we don't bring it to discussion April 10th when I'm not here.
And, as far as formalities that were just described, that's one issue, but citizens have brought up very concerning issues that I think that we can't ignore, that need to be put into consideration, even if it's not in relationship to the firearms discharge map. I don't think that what we can do is just say, all right, we've dealt with these technicalities and we're going to leave it as is and then walk away from the larger issue.
Yeah, I don't think we're walking away, in my opinion. We can bring this up again. I mean.
Well, I should ask,
yeah,
what
go
was the
ahead.
goal tonight? What is our goal tonight?
Just to change, the goal tonight would be to have a resolution in place just to change the wording from hunting map to gun discharge map. That was my goal.
Was that the totality of it, or was there another part?
I mean, ultimately, we need to decide at some point, are we making changes to the map?
Right.
Are we leaving the map alone? Are we getting rid of the map? Are we expanding the map? First and foremost, yeah, we can change the name of the map, and I think that's a good start, and then.
Step one.
Yep.
My goal, I guess, would be, to answer your question, leave the map as is.
So we had discussed this at length in February, and we had considered, there were a lot of comments for changing the map, against changing the map. If you change the map, how far do you change the map? Would there be any exceptions or other non-conforming uses on the map? And then I think there were additional questions that we had asked Mark to research. And then I know Pete was also looking into some of the legalities. There were requests to expand 500 under DEC to 1,500, but it's very clear that the town board does not have jurisdiction to change DEC law. There were a lot, there was a lot that we talked about in February, and I think it wasn't sufficient time to kind of flesh out or do the additional research. And so I understand, at least while we consider those other changes, it may make sense to at least update the name of the map to be consistent with other towns. And then again, I think the map you had said is like 400 years old or something like this. So again, hunting was something very different, and the town at the time looked very different. So I hear the concerns, and I think Supervisor Leenhouts was still talking to additional residents, and there are still exceptions under that law that would allow for use of a firearm to eliminate vermin that pose a threat to potential. So there are a lot of exceptions that I think we do need to tease out in the nuance. But so that might be 2-3 months in terms of discussion, but would there be any objection, at least tonight, for a resolution to merely update the map? No other changes, because again, it's premature at this point, but merely to update the map to get it consistent with other towns and then help clarify for resident understanding.
Specifically the name of the map.
Specifically the name of the map, no other changes for resolution in April. Again, recognizing that we have 2 council persons that want to be involved in that discussion.
I would recommend that it also, on the map itself, that it also makes reference back somewhere on the map itself to Chapter 116 of the Penfield Town Code, which is the firearms. That makes reference to the, official town map, which this is, but if we can just tie it together so that somebody looking at the map doesn't just look at the map in isolation, but then they can come here and see what our law says about it, because there are exceptions.
Yes.
And we do have say over firearm discharge. We can't change hunting, and that's one of the key reasons to change this map, is because we're not going to touch hunting. Right? So if we have a firearm discharge map, we've already said that, yes, we do have jurisdiction of where a firearm can be discharged.
Correct.
Yes, but we wouldn't be able to overrule. Could we supersede? I mean, there's certain parts of town where I think the DEC is going to have jurisdiction.
Okay, again, for our discussion.
Yeah, right. But, and the part of the town that it already covers, I mean, it's already the law. And we were looking initially at kind of just moving that line a little bit.
Right.
Okay.
So that resolution had a lot of caveats there, but the intent, you can understand at least the intent. So I'm assuming that resolution will be very brief, with just updating the name with reference to the section of town law. Any concerns or objections with moving forward on April 10th for that?
No,
No, just the name, that's fine.
just the name is fine.
Okay.
So I'll make that motion.
Go ahead.
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
You're okay. No, if it's a name.
Barry?
Thank you, though.
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Leenhouts?
Aye.
Teglash?
Aye.
All aye.
Okay. All right. Any informational items that I'm missing? Any held items? Old business, new business? It's our next work.
Can I ask,
Yeah,
do you want
please.
to talk about town offices closing for the eclipse?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll mention it. I got to remember the date. Is it April 6th?
April 8th.
April 8th. Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, Eclipse is coming April 8th. The town offices will be closed, which I think is the safest thing for the community. So, yeah, thank you, Linda.
Because since we didn't have another meeting before that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, we'll be back here for the next work session, April 17th, and I'll adjourn this meeting at 8:15.